So a lot of people have been asking, what's going on with this humanitarian situation in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip? Why have things all of a sudden gotten significantly worse in the last weeks compared even to where they were 2 months ago? In order to understand this, we have to backtrack a little bit. The initial conditions in the Gaza Strip, even prior to the war, were quite bad. The population suffers from extreme poverty, unemployment rate is nearly 50%, it was blockaded by both Israel and Egypt, and the Hamas-led government used vast amounts of resources for building tunnels and weaponry rather than assisting the population. This led to a situation where even prior to the war, where things were quote-unquote normal in the Gaza Strip, over 500 aid trucks per day entered the Gaza Strip, and many people relied on international aid agencies for basic necessities. Then October 7th happened. When the war broke out, Israel stopped all aid from entering Gaza. Then, under monumental pressure around October 20th, the first aid trucks carrying food, water, and medical supplies were allowed in. At this point, it was only roughly 20 trucks per day. And since the truce negotiations, in November, over 200 trucks per day began entering. However, they were entering exclusively from the southern crossings in the Gaza Strip. Rafah, which is the most southern crossing, goes between Gaza and Egypt, and Kerem Shalom between Gaza and Israel. To travel north, trucks must coordinate their movement with the IDF, as movement from the southern parts of the Gaza Strip to the northern parts of the Gaza Strip is both prohibited by the IDF, as well as has to cross a lot of active fighting zones. So what happened in the last several weeks to create a much worse situation? First, as the bulk of the fighting moved southward towards the areas of Han Yunis in the Gaza Strip since January, it became increasingly difficult for trucks to navigate their way up north in the Gaza Strip safely. This is a result of both active fighting and IDF restrictions that were also even tightened due to Hamas resurging itself in some parts of the northern Gaza Strip. Second, towards the end of January, the family members of hostages in Israel began protesting the entrance of aid into the Gaza Strip. Very quickly, however, this movement was taken over by more right-wing elements in Israel that began to physically block the crossings and limit the amount of trucks that could enter into the Gaza Strip, stating that no aid will enter the Gaza Strip while Israeli hostages are still held in the Strip by Hamas. Third, as aid missions to the north became more scarce, looting became a wider phenomenon, because as there's less aid coming in, looting increased. This was done both by desperate Palestinian civilians in the north, as well as by Hamas, as the movement is still trying to rebuild itself in the region. As a result, by February 24th, UNRWA, which is also calculating its budget due to the financial restrictions after a lot of its funding was suspended by different countries, announced a cessation of aid missions to the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, stating that missions cannot be carried out safely, and that trucks are simply being looted. Fourth, in the first weeks of February, the IDF began targeting Hamas's police force in Rafah, with notable assassinations taking place on February 7th and February 10th. This was likely in anticipation of the IDF's invasion. As a result, however, the police force in Rafah largely dissolved, substantially minimizing the amount of aid trucks that can enter, since they require police escort, according to international agreements, in order to enter and travel across the Gaza Strip safely. By the end of February, all these factors combined to create a far worse situation in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip specifically, with acute hunger conditions being reported and hospitals operating without basic medical equipment or supplies. If you're interested in more updates on the war, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I upload daily summaries on what's going on in the war and any major developments. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'm Alon Burstein. I'm a visiting assistant professor in the Department of Political Science at the University of California, Irvine. Thanks for watching.